In the videos now. Good morning, my name is George Lees. I'm a professor in neuroscience, and at the moment I'm trying to investigate financial crimes that are of great importance to the nation, and my informant and the expert in that sector who I'm going to introduce you to now is called Gordon Bowden. This is Gordon on the left of the image, and he's meeting for the first time Ed Miliband, who's the leader of the opposition here in the UK. Gordon has, I think I'll let Gordon tell you himself about his position. He's served in the forces, he's been all around the world as a serviceman, and he's now doing the most important job of anyone in this country for this country. I'll briefly let Gordon introduce himself.
Okay, my name's Gordon Bowden. I'm an ex-Royal Air Force Gentech GSE engineer. I served 12 years from 1969 to 1982. Served at military bases, both at home and overseas, Near East, Far East, and left the Royal Air Force in 1982 when I was commissioned to be a general engineer for Goldfields of South Africa, where I worked for nearly 6 years at number 1 Shaft East Driefontein Gold Mine for GFSA Goldfields of South Africa as a HVAC and refrigeration engineer, mine hoist engineer for the 120 person, 36 person and 18 ton rock winders engineer, and mine flood control engineer. I left Goldfields of South Africa, and then for 11 years was employed by the University of Transkei as a facilities engineer.
And can you tell the public how much you get for your pension?
Well, I can't get it yet because they've moved the goalpost for accessing my pension until I'm 67.
So you're trying to save the UK Treasury from grand larceny, but you have no earning power?
No, unfortunately not. Ashamed to say that I'm on pension credits at the moment, which is a very restricted access to income.
Okay, Gordon, we're now going to bring to the attention of the public your attempts to bring war crimes and financial grand larceny to the attention of your local MP, who is Chris Williamson, in the Derby North constituency. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Chris Williamson, Derby MP North, and his cohort, Mrs. Well, I can say cohort, but a conspirator, I would say, Mrs. Margaret Beckett, who was fully aware in joint communications of the material that I've put before them in regard to massive fraud on the alternative investment market and documents seized by the Derbyshire Police.
So these are relatively anonymous politicians. My MP was on the UK Cabinet until very recently, and that's an image of him, Michael Moore, in Afghanistan, meeting British troops who are there as part of a NATO exercise. And the other image there is of Wootton Bassett, which is in the Prime Minister's constituency near Chipping Norton, where we just happen to have major interests in the war graves sector. But what we want to talk about is why both Chris Williamson and Michael Moore MP refuse to engage in our correspondence. If you look at that image there, you see Gordon's MP Chris Williamson. You see that he has 1,300 entries in Hansard, and the latest is on abuses of schoolgirls in Nigeria and some health and safety issues. None of Gordon's issues have been registered on Hansard, despite the fact that they cover the economic crash of 2008 and the brutalisation of various countries in the Middle East. My MP Michael Moore, who's been on the Cabinet for all of the time since 2010 when the coalition government were put there, has nothing at all on Hansard. That is a reflection of the cover-up of government crimes on an unprecedented scale, which I'll get Gordon to describe as we pan down the pages. Those are the correspondence details for our MPs. We never get replies, we never get acknowledgement of receipt, but that's chris.williamson.mp@parliament.uk, and it's Michael Moore MP, all one word, at parliament.uk. They are in breach of the UK Constitution to cover up, and remember that Williamson is Labour and was New Labour, Michael Moore is Lib Dem, and the crimes of the Prime Minister and the constituency, the Chipping Norton set, will be profiled further down the page. So I'll let Gordon tell you about how he and a chap called Peter Eyre tried to engage Chris Williamson in the facts about the arms to Iraq scandal and the deployment of depleted uranium in NATO campaigns in various countries and continents. Over to you, Gordon. I'm now scanning at your letters, the letters that were delivered to David Cameron by Chris Williamson and Chris Williamson's response to you in Derby.
Well, thanks, Joe. Yes, the three letters replies from Chris Williamson were underpinned by a meeting at the council offices where both Peter and I went to speak to him in regard to political dynamic documents I recovered back in July 2010, which were a sequence of over 400 documents recovered from the website of Miss Andrea Davison, who was interlocked to massive fraud, theft and money laundering for an organised crime network, which she was raided under a proceeds of crime order on the 13th of the 1st, 2010. Some of those documents I made into a folder of 31 pages, including political correspondence letters between Lord Douglas Hoyle and Andrea Davison, and Andrea Davison's response to Lord Doug Hoyle, and letters from Lord Doug Hoyle to the Chief of the Derbyshire Police. Those letters and other documents regarding items seized within the proceeds of crime raid by the Derbyshire Police, of which Miss Andrea Davison made public and published a 4-page list of items seized. Under the proceeds of crime order, which I have a full copy of, it indicated that she was...
So I'm just showing images of that now, starting with Judge makes it illegal for me to... On January, I was alone in my flat and asleep when the Derby police, headed by DC Winard, raided my flat. That's one of the relevant documents?
Yeah, that's 1518 DC Stephen Winard.
Okay, and I'll just scroll through the documents. There's the one, Derby police seized documents wanted by the Iraq inquiry, with a picture of Davison in the countryside.
So when she was very young, I would say in early 20s.
And one of the headers refers to Nick Clegg in that particular disclosure.
That's correct.
Okay, and then other documents include a letter from Lord Hoyle to Mick Creedon, Chief Constable, Derbyshire Constabulary, Butterley Hall, Ripley, Derbyshire, DE5 3RS, dated the 17th of March 2010, the year that the coalition government came to power. There is no signature on the letter, and there are several bits have been deleted. I'm not sure who did the deletions.
Well, the deletions were done by Andrea Davison to try to obscure her compatriot who was resident in the boiler room when the Derbyshire police raided it. He wasn't in at the time of the raid, but his name is David William Mills. He's an ex-security specialist working on nuclear fuel stations, electrical production, nuclear production systems. He previously worked for the nuclear weapons establishment in Reading, and subsequently was working at Magnox North in North Wales, a decommissioned nuclear power station at the time of the police raid. He was separated from his wife, who lives in Stoke-on-Trent.
And can you just explain how Doug Hoyle in the second chamber, i.e. the House of Lords, was involved in this case and what he was asked to do and why he was corresponding with the Chief Constable in Derbyshire?
Well, there was a long-time liaison between Andrea Davison and her tag-along journalist Pete Sawyer and the Labour Party. They were part of a disinformation network using a political satire magazine called Scallywag, which was meant to destabilise the Conservative government by highlighting corruption. Was a donation by a gentleman called John Arnold Breedenkamp, a conservative covert weapon supplier who dealt with many people in the covert arms trade, including Oliver North and various South African special forces and UK SAS members who form private military companies. So, Lord Doug Hoyle, on behalf of Andrea Davison, wrote to the Chief of the Derby Police to try to expedite her case as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go back now to the Williamson page of my website, if you can just access that, and you can explain how vigorously you've tried to get these things into the public eye, maybe starting with your visit to the Derby Police on the 15th of February 2011. I've now got an image of that up as we make the video. So the receipt, you were given an official receipt number for that from Louise Sarah Hawkins at the Derbyshire Constabulary.
Yeah, that was a joint visit by Peter and myself to gain access to information or inquire about the freedom of information request that we would make, to inform also that the Derbyshire Police that we were involved in a civil litigation case against Andrea Davison when I made public other documents relating to massive fraud of which the Derbyshire Police, with the Freedom of Information officer, who explained that our civil case should not go ahead of any criminal case put against Andrea Davison.
And you were corresponding with Chris Williamson at that time, trying to get these...
I was making it known that within the documents that I presented to him in the personal visit that we had at the council houses, I gave him a folder file of 31 pages which showed the interrelationship between a convicted, then not convicted, but facing criminal trial of a major fraudster and document forger who acted on and for the Labour Party and senior members of, whereby the documents that I presented to MP Chris Williamson were those of a political dynamic involving arms to Iraq documents. And as an ex-serviceman, I always carried a duty of care that if some of those documents were forensically accurate, they contained incidents of details of missing nuclear warheads. And that was some of the documents that were purportedly seized by the Derbyshire Police, of which I made a Freedom of Information request to understand that they were secure, those documents, and that they would be forwarded on towards the Chilcot inquiry. I received no reply. I received no confirmation from the Derbyshire Police under that FOI request, only other than that these documents were under a certain clause subject to non-disclosure as there was an ongoing criminal investigation. However, under under the proceeds of crime order that the Derbyshire police used against or for the raid on Miss Davison's property, it only covered the involvement of herself in a fraud between 2007 and 2008, and they expedited their removal of documents which far outstripped the legality of their warrant under the proceeds of crime.
And can I just read the reply around the same time on the 22nd of March from Chris Williamson to you on what you had asked him to take to the Prime Minister? Can I read that out for the public?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Dear Mr. Bowden, please find enclosed 2 letters I have sent on your behalf. These include a letter to the Prime Minister with which I enclosed your correspondence, and then a further chase-up letter when he did not respond. I don't think ongoing correspondence with you on this issue is particularly productive. As you will appreciate, I have over 700,000 other constituents.
No, it's 70,000.
70,000 other constituents in Derby North, and many of them contact me with pressing personal concerns. Remember that the last issue he has taken forward to Hansard is on the abuse of Nigerian children in another country under the regime of another government. I am sorry that you have not secured the outcome you desired on this issue. Yours sincerely, Chris Williamson, Labour MP for Derby North.
Yeah, my concerns with this were, one, it didn't cover the issues or the documents that I forwarded him in a file, and those documents were recorded as duplicates of others. And so Chris Williamson looked for an avenue.
But there was no signature on them, and there was no indication of whether or not it had actually been sent to the Prime Minister's office?
Exactly, and I asked Chris Williamson to provide me with copies of those letters that he forwarded to the Prime Minister.
How convenient that he's forgotten to put a signature on it.
No, he refused. He refused to forward me those correspondence,
okay,
which is an unconstitutional how can I put it?
It's a breach of the UK Constitution.
Yeah, just not only a breach. It's my mistrust of his involvement in forwarding these political dynamic documents, which should carry further disclosure to the general public. And this man is not fit to hold public office. I know him to be a complete and utter liar. He is a disgrace not only to the population of Derby, but to anybody within the Labour Party.
And remember, New Labour were the regime that took us into war in Iraq.
Exactly.
With very little reference to democracy or the democratic process.
You understand that politics is a dirty game, and basically it's all about controlling a piggy bank. Unfortunately, within the Constitution, they have a league, because they are public servants. If there was any information within those documents, which clearly there was, with personal letters between senior members of the House of Lords and MPs, and including Tony Blair and Gordon Brown and Kenneth Clarke, that these letters represented an overview of corruption within the Labour Party, and Chris Williamson, for the sake of his own survival and that of senior members of the Labour government, refused to forward my requests to the Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron, who is just as corrupt as the others.
So that takes us further down the page. Can you scroll down and see, at this point you take us to a party political congress. I believe it was in Nottingham, was it?
Yeah, that's correct. There was an invitation by certain members of the public in Derby to request tickets for this, and I saw this as an ideal opportunity to forward copies of those 31 pages to various senior members of the Labour Party. As you can see,
and I've
from
now
the
just
document,
scrolled down to pictures of Gordon Brown and Tony Blair grinning like Cheshire cats on that theme. Can you explain what happened at that Congress and how you were responded to with your huge accusations?
Well, basically I took the two cover documents, of which I recovered by access to header bars on the front page of those 2 pages, over 400 documents.
This is from Davidson's residence.
That's correct. No,
on our website.
Her website, which was www.afbio.co.uk.
And we put that URL on my website as a token gesture, because the website has now been long since closed down for access to the public.
But as I explained to you, there are methods to recover those pages, which if anybody wants to recover them, you can see by using Internet Archive Wayback Machine. You can still access certain pages. However, most of the material has been removed, and certain documents and files you cannot gain now access. However,
but you're pictured at the Labour Party conference in Nottingham.
That's correct. Yes.
Presenting all of the evidence from all of the documents that you got from the closed website. And can I just read out the statement that you make, which is coincident with that? The reason he refused to cover my issues in Parliament were because they implicated very senior Labour Party politicians. Prime Minister Tony Blair, Prime Minister Gordon Brown, MP Neil Kinnock, MP Peter Hain, Kenneth Clarke, who's the longest serving Conservative Party cabinet member, Lord Laird Artigavan, I'm not sure if he has a party affiliation, and Lord Douglas Howell, who we've already seen, Hoyle, who we've already seen some correspondence from on my webpage. Can you tell us a little bit more about those senior Labour Party politicians?
Yeah, the meeting was the Congress meeting for the new Labour Party, to go forward with conviction, to tell the truth, to expose the corruption in other parties, etc. However, as you can see, this meeting I presented to Baroness Scotland and various other senior member. Sorry, that's just my printer going off. To present the documents, which you can see clearly. Well, you can't see clearly, but you can see from the second portrait shot when I handed it to certain dignitaries that on the far top left-hand corner of the page, it's the same photograph as the document of the 2 pages that I sent you.
Yes, and just to explain to the public, we've already posted this stuff on the deceit and cover-up involving my MP